This fifth and final slice of the pie in the second blog is called Include Assessment for Learning. Use continuous assessment to monitor how well your learners are understanding and help you address any issues. I think an important aspect of assessment for learning is absolutely continuous and ongoing assessment for learning. So it's not just the end point, the end test, and that we could do all sorts of mini assessments, which I'm sure teachers do all the time. It's also a way of very helpfully of helping learners plan for what might be a final test as well. So continuous assessment and endpoint assessment are not necessarily separate. They can actually support each other, and results of tests can go back to well, what do learners still need to do, and more continuous assessment. But I think we need to see assessment for learning in a broader sense, and it's fundamentally about promoting learning rather than assessment with a big A, as well. Lots of examples and ways we can do this, but let me just give you two examples now. One is using something that's called Kwl Charts, and for example, you might have some things in learning in a lesson, where you give some knowledge, and they input this, and there's of course this links with one of the other slices, which is how do we link what we already know to what we need to know. So once you've given some knowledge, some input in a lesson, maybe we could focus on the learners and how will we find out more about this topic? What do we need to know about this topic? And then where will we find it? Will we find it in class by discussing with other learners, with a teacher, from the library, from the internet? Where will we find the resources that we need? And then a next stage, once we've done all that, the next stage would be engaging with all that information, and then saying what have we learned, and perhaps how have we learnt it as well, which will be really important. Yeah. And another example might be self and peer assessment, and trying to do that. And in some classes, at the end of a lesson, not every learner at the same time, because that's impossible, but different learners on different days, you might do something about how would you grade yourself. Now you need kind of criteria for that, of course, but you often find that a learner might actually be harder than themselves than a teacher is. But also, if you agree the criteria, what mark would I give myself, and what mark of you as a teacher would you give? And you can discuss that and decide to what extent you agree. But I think there's something about this is actually powerful, that you're allowing your learners to actually assess and grade themselves, which is probably bigger impact than what the actual grade is as well. Yeah. So learning, assessment for learning is a key tool in all inclusive practices.